Good evening, this is your night before news video for your second further maths paper, which is tomorrow morning. This is a calculator paper, so please make sure you've got your calculator with you. And in this video, we are just going to have a little look at what came up in paper 1 and then think about how we can use that to maybe make some predictions about paper 2 and then what our best tips are for some last minute revision tonight and tomorrow morning in preparation for this exam. So thinking about what came up in paper 1, we had some quadratic inequalities, we had functions, factorising, there were some matrices content there. I just highlighted that red because that is not something I would have expected you to pick up any marks on, as it is something that we haven't covered yet. There was some coordinate geometry, so there was finding the gradient between 2 points and the distance between 2 points, algebraic proof, tangent to a curve, equation of a circle, non-linear simultaneous equations, changing the subject of a formula, rationalising the denominator, second derivatives, exact trig values, that came up a couple of times, algebraic fractions, equations with indices, binomial expansion, stationary points, 3 simultaneous equations, completing the square. That final question had a circle theorem in it, it had cosine rule with exact trig values, and sine rule with exact trig values as well. So that's everything that came up in paper 1. There is always that health warning now when we start to think about what has come up and that it might come up again in paper 2. But I wanted just to focus specifically on the further maths content for a moment. In the previous video I shared that this was everything we had done on further maths so far, and if we just have a little look, we did see binomial expansion, we did see 3 simultaneous equations, we did have differentiation in there. We needed to use the power rule to differentiate functions. We had to find gradients because we were finding equations of tangents. We had to find the equation of a tangent, not a normal, but a tangent. We had to find and use the second derivative as well. So, if we think about paper 2, we have to remember that scene topics may come up again. So they may be similar, they may be in a different form. But it is highly likely that we're going to see some of those topics again in paper 2. It does make sense though to think about the fact that we're probably going to see some content that has not yet been assessed as well. I think that's very, very likely. So if I just then shorten that list from the previous slide, these were all of the things from further maths that we have covered that didn't come up in that exam and might come up in the exam tomorrow. Including product rule for counting, which is not further maths content per se, there was some GCSE elements of that, but that hasn't come up either. So if I'm thinking about choosing a topic to revise tonight, I might want to focus on one of those. We do have to, again, I'm just going to keep reminding you of that sort of health warning there, there may be something that came up in paper 1 that we will see again. Okay, we are allowed a calculator now in this paper, so I'm probably not expecting really to see like a surds question where you have to rationalise, or something where you have to evaluate with indices maybe, but you know, maybe binomial expansion could lend itself to needing a calculator and might be something that comes up again, or just something with some harder numbers in it, maybe some trigonometry now where it's not exact trig values. So the further maths content that we still haven't studied properly are matrices and some trigonometry where we have to solve trig equations and use some trigonometric identities. So again, just wanted to remind you, please don't panic if there is another question on matrices in there. We know that you haven't covered that yet and that is something we're going to get to. It's just this is a full mock paper, so it does cover the content of the course. So it does include the potential of having matrices in it again. So what should you do? We've kind of gone over what came up, the fact that some of that stuff might come up again, but narrowed that list down to a topic list of further maths content that hasn't yet appeared. That is where I would start. So go on Arbor, you can have a look back at the previous lessons and the exam questions that I've been uploading every Monday attached with with the lesson that we covered in that week. You have additionally got Sparks Maths. So if you go onto Sparks Maths, you go to your independent learning and you select AQA Level 2 Further Maths, you can then type in your topics. I know some of you have been making good use of that so far. Not everything is on Sparks Maths though for further maths, so you'll want to supplement that with probably some core bit maths. If you go onto core bit maths at the top where it says more, you've got a further maths section there, and there is a big list of topics, and you've got practice questions themed into those topic booklets, and answers as well. In addition, some videos if you need a little bit of a hint as to what to do when you're doing your revision. So that's just an example of what the list would look like. Tomorrow morning the hub will be open early again, so feel free to come in and get some revision done in the morning with me, and I can give you some last minute tips if you've got any questions. I would really recommend bringing some questions that you haven't been able to answer, so maybe something that you've looked up tonight, or maybe you've watched a video on corporate maths, you've tried the question and something's just not clicking. Bring that in tomorrow morning and I'm more than happy to help you with that. We'll go through to the canteen, maybe 8 o'clock's a little bit early, maybe more like 8:15, and we will start doing our revision in the hub before our lineup, which will be the normal lineup with the rest of the cohort, and then we will come back in and finish our revision. Final advice, just again, make sure you're attempting every question. Read that last line to make sure that you have actually answered the question, so that you know what the question is, and not that you've assumed what the question is. Make sure your answers make sense in the context, so make sure they're sensible answers, and use all of that time available to you. Okay, it's what it's there for. Get as many marks as you can by maximising every single minute of that exam. And that's it. Good luck with your final last minute revision tonight, and I will see you in the morning.